You have probably heard the advice 100 times. Save more. Spend less. Invest early. And you nod, because it makes sense. But there is something nobody tells you about money. Something that only happens after you reach one specific number. Not $1 million. Not even $100,000. $10,000. Because the day your account crosses that number, something changes that has nothing to do with money. Something changes in you. The way you think, your confidence, the decisions you make without even realizing it. And the moment you look at that number and think, I did this. I actually did this. And if I did it once, I can do it again. That feeling right there is worth more than the $10,000 itself. And today I want to show you exactly what that looks like. Because once you see it, you will never think about a savings account the same way again. You know that moment when you check your account and something in your chest tightens? Not because there is nothing there. Sometimes there is money there. But you already know where it is going. The rent is due. The car needs something. There is that thing from last month still sitting on the card. And whatever is in the account right now is already spoken for before you have spent a penny of it. So you close the app, and you carry on. You go to work, you pay the bills, you live your life. But underneath all of that, something is always quietly running. A calculation you cannot switch off. What if something breaks this week? What if next month is slow? What if I cannot cover it? You do not even notice it anymore. It has been there so long it feels normal. You have learned to live with it the way you learn to live with a noise in your building. After a while, you stop hearing it. But it is still there. Every time you swipe your card and hold your breath for a second before it goes through. Every time you get an email from a number you do not recognize and your stomach drops before you open it. Every time someone at work mentions a big expense coming up and you quietly do the maths without showing it on your face. All of that is the noise. And it is costing you far more than you know. Because it is not just stress. It is decisions. Every decision you make when that noise is running is slightly different from the decision you would make without it. You say yes to work you do not want because you cannot afford to say no. You stay in situations you have outgrown because leaving feels too risky right now. You accept the first offer because waiting feels like a luxury you cannot afford. You do not ask for more because what if they say no and things get complicated? You are not making decisions. You are reacting. And the difference between making decisions and reacting is the difference between building a life and just getting through one. Most people think $10,000 is a savings goal. It is not. It is the point where the noise stops. Not permanently, not completely, but enough. Enough that when the car breaks down, you pay it and move on instead of spending 3 weeks managing the fallout. Enough that when the unexpected bill arrives, your first thought is not, how am I going to cover this? Enough that when someone offers you something that is not right, you can say no without your heart racing. Enough that the corner of your mind that was always calculating, always checking, always asking what if, finally goes quiet. And in that silence, something happens that changes everything. You ask a different question. Before 10,000, the question is always the same. How do I get through this month? After 10,000, for the first time, a new question appears. How do I make this money work harder for me? That is not a small shift. That is an entirely different relationship with money. And it starts the moment you cross 10,000. Here is the part people do not expect. Getting to 10,000 changes you before you arrive. Not at the end, along the way. Because the first time you decide not to touch the money, something shifts. Your friends are going away for the weekend. It looks good. You want to go. You open the account. You look at the number. And you close it. This is not holiday money. This is future money. That decision, quiet, private, nobody else sees it, is the beginning of a different version of you. Not because you missed a trip, because you kept a promise to yourself. And the next month, when the transfer runs automatically and the money moves before you even see it, you keep it again. And the month after that. Each month that passes is not just money building, it is evidence building. Evidence that you are not the person who always says they will start next month. Evidence that when you make a decision, you actually follow through. Evidence that the version of you that could not save money was not the real you. It was just the version of you that had not decided yet. And something starts to build that is worth more than the money itself. Evidence. Evidence that you are someone who keeps promises to themselves. Evidence that you can delay something today for something better tomorrow. Evidence that you are the kind of person who builds things. That evidence is quiet. Nobody else can see it. But you feel it. And it changes the way you talk to yourself about what is possible. Nobody connects this to careers. But $10,000 changes the way you work. Not because you invested in a business. Because of what it does to how you show up. Right now, if you have nothing behind you, your job has more power over you than it should. Your hours can change. Your workload can increase. Your pay can feel unfair. And you might say nothing. Not because you do not notice. Because you cannot afford the consequences of saying something. You cannot afford the gap between leaving and finding something better. You cannot afford to take a risk, even when the risk is clearly worth taking. Think about the last time you were in a conversation about your pay or your role, and you wanted to say something but you held back. Maybe you held back because you did not want to rock the boat. Maybe you told yourself the timing was not right. But underneath that, if you are honest, there was something else. Fear. Not of the conversation. Of what happens if it goes wrong and you need to leave. Of the weeks between leaving and landing somewhere else. Of not having enough to cover that gap. That fear is not a character flaw. It is arithmetic. And here is the thing nobody says. Desperation is something other people can feel on you. Employers feel it before you say a word. Clients feel it in the way you talk about your work. And when someone senses that you need this, they offer less, because they can. But the moment you have $10,000 sitting somewhere safe, not $1 million, just $10,000, something changes in the room. You walk in differently. Not arrogantly, just without the quiet urgency that used to follow you everywhere. You can wait. You can say this is not right. You can negotiate without fear of the silence that follows. And the moment you stop negotiating from fear, people start treating you differently. $10,000 does not just sit in an account. It walks into every room with you. The day you cross 10,000, do not just notice the number. Notice what it means. It means you kept going when progress felt slow. It means you said no when yes would have been easier. It means you built something real in the background of your ordinary life without anyone watching. And here is what that proof does. It changes the story you tell yourself. Before 10,000, the story sounds like this. People like me do not get ahead. I try, but something always comes up. I will start properly when things settle down. After 10,000, the story changes. I have done it once. I can do it again. That story, told quietly to yourself as the number grows, is more valuable than the money. Because money can disappear. Beliefs rarely do. And the belief that you are the kind of person who builds things is the belief that eventually builds everything. Not the market, not the interest rate, not the perfect investment. You. The version of you that exists after 10,000 is more capable than the version before it. Not because you know more. Because you have proof of what you can do. You get a raise, and for about 2 weeks it feels real. Then something quiet happens. The restaurant gets slightly nicer. The flat upgrade feels justified now. The car that was fine 6 months ago suddenly feels like it needs replacing. None of it feels like a decision. It just happens. Because when more money arrives, your lifestyle expands to meet it. Not because you are reckless. Because available money feels like permission. And within a few months, the raise is gone. Absorbed. Invisible. You are not richer. You are simply more expensive. And you feel exactly as stretched as you did before. Just in a nicer version of the same position. This is what happens to most people every single time their income goes up. The money arrives and the lifestyle claims it, and they wonder why years of promotions and raises have not moved the number in their account. But here is what changes after 10,000. You start to see the raise differently. You see it before your lifestyle does, and you send half of it somewhere safe before your spending habits even notice it landed. Half to your future, half to your life. That rule, simple, boring, applied every single time, is what separates the people who build wealth from the people who earn well and stay stuck. Not because they earned less, because the money always got there before they did. Here is how you build it without relying on motivation. Because motivation is not a strategy. It runs out on a Friday night when you are tired and something looks good, and you have had a long week. Systems do not run out. The moment your income lands, a fixed amount moves automatically to a separate account. Not after bills, not at the end of the month. The moment it lands. Before your brain registers it as money you have, what you never see, you never miss. What you never miss, you never spend. The account goes somewhere separate. Different bank, different login. Close enough to reach in a real emergency, far enough that you cannot touch it on a slow night because something caught your attention. Look at the screen. That is how long different monthly amounts take to reach 10,000. Pick the number that makes sense right now. Then go slightly higher than comfortable. That slight discomfort is where the habit forms. And every time your income goes up, let half of the increase go to savings before your lifestyle can claim it. Because the moment a raise starts to feel normal, it is already gone. At some point, something will go wrong. It always does. A job disappears. A company restructures. An opportunity closes before you can take it. And in that moment, there are two completely different versions of what happens next. Version 1. You panic. Not because you want to. Because you have to. The bills will not wait. The rent will not wait. Your lifestyle will not wait. So you take the first thing available. Not because it is right. Because you cannot afford to wait for right. You make a decision from fear instead of from thought. And that decision, made in a moment of pressure because there was no other option, can follow you for years. Version 2. You are stressed. Of course you are. Losing something you counted on is always stressful. But you are not panicking, because panic and stress are not the same thing. Stress is what you feel when something hard happens. Panic is what you feel when something hard happens and you have nothing behind you. With $10,000, you have something behind you. You have time. Time to think instead of react. Time to wait for something worth saying yes to. Time to make a good decision instead of a desperate one. And the decisions made from time are completely different from the decisions made from panic. That is not a small thing. That is the difference between a setback that costs you a month and one that costs you 3 years. People think wealth is built by big moves. The perfect investment. The right stock at the right time. The business idea that takes off. And sometimes those things happen. But most of the time, wealth is built by something far less exciting. Doing the same boring thing every single month for a very long time. Moving the money the moment it lands. Not touching it when life says you deserve a break. Increasing the amount when income goes up before the lifestyle can claim it. And then leaving it alone. Month after month. Year after year. Look at the screen. That is what $500 a month builds over 10 years at 8%. That is what it builds over 20 years. That is what it builds over 30. Nobody built that with a hot tip. Nobody built that by timing the market perfectly. They built it by being consistent when consistency felt boring, by keeping going when the result was not yet visible, by trusting a process that does not look impressive until suddenly it does. And here is the thing about consistency that nobody tells you. The longer you do it, the easier it gets. Not because the habit becomes effortless, because your identity catches up with your actions. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to save. You become someone who saves. And that version of you does not need motivation every month. That version of you just does it. Because it is what they do. The second 10,000 comes faster than the first. Not because you earn more, because the first one is already working. It is growing quietly in the background while you are at work. While you are asleep. While you are living your life. Before 10,000, you are doing all the heavy lifting. Every pound saved is a pound you moved yourself. After 10,000, the money starts helping. The returns are small at first, but they are there. And they compound. And compounding is the only force in personal finance that rewards you for doing nothing. You do not have to be clever. You do not have to make good calls. You just have to not stop. And not stopping is exactly what the identity you built getting to 10,000 prepares you for. Because the person who reached 10,000 already knows how to not stop. They have been doing it for months, some of them for years. And that skill, the skill of continuing when progress feels slow, is the only skill that separates the people who reach 100,000 from the ones who stay stuck at 9. Here is something that does not show up in any financial calculator. The longer you save, the better you get at thinking about money. Not because you read more books, because you start seeing patterns you could not see before. In the first month, you are just trying not to touch the money. In the third month, you start noticing where money was leaking without you realizing. The subscription that had been running for 11 months, you had completely forgotten about. The habit of buying something small every time you felt stressed that added up to more than a meal out every week. The way you spent more on a Friday because the week was over and you deserved it. You do not change these things because you read an article about them. You change them because you now have a reason to. The money in that separate account has made the leaks feel real in a way they never did before. And by 6 months in, your brain has started doing something it has never done. It is automatically calculating what things cost in terms of time, not the price on the label. The number of days of saving that price represents. That is not discipline. That is a new way of seeing. And by 12 months in, you have started asking questions about money that you never used to ask. What is this money actually doing right now? Is it sitting there, or is it working? Could this be in a better place? Those questions do not come from motivation. They come from having crossed a number that changed the relationship. And every month after that, the questions get sharper. The thinking gets clearer. The decisions get better. Not because you became a different person overnight, because the habit of protecting money created the habit of thinking about it. And the habit of thinking about it is where wealth actually starts. After 10,000, pay attention to the small things. Pay attention to the way you feel when something unexpected arrives. A bill, a repair, a cost you did not plan for. Notice that your first thought is not, "How am I going to cover this?" Notice that the question that used to run automatically in the background has gone quiet. Pay attention to the way you talk about money. You will stop saying things like, "I will start properly when things settle down." You will stop saying, "I wish I had more." You will start saying, "What should I do with this next?" Pay attention to the way you show up at work. You will notice that you say things you would not have said before. You will hold your ground in conversations that used to make you fold. You will turn down things that are not right without the familiar tightening in your chest. You will not be able to explain why you feel different. but you will feel it. And anyone who knows you well enough will notice it too. That is what 10,000 does. Not to your bank account. To you. $10,000 will not make you rich, but it will do something no amount of financial advice ever could. It will prove to you that you are capable of building something. And once you believe that, really believe it, not because someone told you but because you did it, the number becomes a starting point, not a destination. You cross 10,000 and you do not stop. You ask what comes next. And the answer to that question, asked month after month, year after year, is what eventually becomes wealth. Not because you got lucky, not because you found the secret, because you became the kind of person who keeps going. And that kind of person does not stay at 10,000 for long. If this changed how you think about your money, subscribe to Marcus Finance now and turn on your notification bell because you might not find this channel again. You do not want to miss the next video.